the Top Gun facility. That's all I can say. I can't say where it is, who I worked on. I can't show any pictures. Can't do nothing.
How you doing, guys? This is David Cruz of the Optimum Advantage Podcast, and I'm here with Scott Seargeant. We have an amazing guest. He's actually the owner of Seargeant Landscape and Arboriculture. He's a tree doctor, a consulting arborist, a tree forensic analysis, an author, a writer, and a landscape contractor. So very interesting. I'm very excited to get into some of these topics today. So let's just jump right into it, man. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. So I just wanted to get right into it. If you could just tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your business.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the owner of Seargeant Landscape and Arboriculture. I got a degree from Cal Poly State University in San Luis Obispo here in California. And from there, I opened my business, got my contractor's license, got my arborist license, and started doing mostly landscaping. And then I just started doing consulting for people who had tree problems. It was like a natural fit. And so I kind of redesigned my business, and I found a guy who was a really good foreman, and he would run my crew in the landscaping, and then I would do the consulting in the afternoon. So it worked out really well because I had two income streams, and one from the landscaping, which was like, it's kind of like bread and butter. But then I wasn't satisfied, so I started a commercial maintenance business and to make things even a little more complicated. But I went after, because there was a few recessions during the 80s. So I went after things that don't get bothered by recession, and one is insurance, and another one is hospitals. Usually, COVID was unusual.
Gap in
And
the
so,
market.
yeah, so when I had my maintenance, and so I had three divisions. I had my maintenance, I had my landscape installation, and I had my tree consulting. And so I had three legs, and when the economy was bad on one, it was good on the other two, and vice versa. So I never, from that one moment, and I never went through a recession with my business,
Wow.
because I could always just tailor it towards whatever it is that was hot at the time. And then when all three were running on, running really on high end, that's when the craziness kind of started. But it's all good. It's all good.
That's awesome. I mean, that's such a smart way to do it, man, because I mean, like you said, you always got something running on. And can I ask you, so as far as, the business, if you had to choose one, which one has been the most successful for you?
Financially, the landscaping construction has been the
Mhm.
most successful. The consulting is the most profitable per dollar spent, and the maintenance is just that bread and butter that comes in every month that you can count on, which is really sets up the other two. But the construction has always been the one that puts out the most, just because I have a crew and I can bid on projects. I mean, I'm just finishing up a $500,000 landscape. I mean, it's kind of hard to beat that in consulting, although I'm trying. Although I'm trying.
No, that's definitely the goal, man.
Yeah.
And so you've been in this a long time, right? Like, I mean, I know you mentioned 1980.
Yeah. So I got out of college in '84, started my business right away. And by '87, I was rolling pretty good. And by the early '90s, I had all three divisions going full speed. So it took me 4 or 5 years to really figure it out in my area, and to kind of glean off of other people. And then once I became an arborist, man, things just started solidifying.
And was that transition hard, like just to get yourself kind of like to where you're managing instead of like being inside of the business itself?
Yeah, it was hard for me to get my hands out of it, and be
Yeah.
more of the business owner. But it wasn't long, because I had some good guys working for me. I mean, really good. I paid them well. They did things, they'd work in the rain if I had to. One year it was freezing and we're laying sod. They knew that if they went the extra mile, I would always reward them, usually financially. Sometimes with it was a, hey, take off to the coast, I'll pay for it this weekend type thing. So I always
That goes a
made
long
my
way.
employees first. Yeah, and it does. It does. They do the extra mile for you and make me money. I kick it down to them. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, that actually holds a lot of retainment too, because you know you're happy with your job. You're not really looking for anything else, and you don't mind making it a career. Because I've noticed I've talked to a lot of people that have been in this industry, and one of their biggest issues sometimes has to be the retention of good work. You know, like they it's hard to find skilled labor in something like landscaping. You know, because not a lot of people just decide to go into that as a career. But it's beautiful. You're one of the key people that does it the right way, man. Because even me being, I used to work myself like in the field, do it like as an arborist and you know cutting trees and all that. And I could tell you like the difference between going to a job where your boss respects you and acknowledges your work is absolutely everything. I mean, I would take a pay cut to do that if I was still in that field, you know. So
Yeah,
that's awesome.
definitely. You gotta you gotta appreciate the people who do the hard work. You know, when it's 105 here, and I ask the guys to do something, and they say yes, yeah, sure, we will. I go, okay, you know, I'll reward you, and they go, no problem. And like today, 44 degrees here, which is pretty cold, and you know, we got a jet of pipe across a driveway, and it's going to get poured in 2 days. And my guy, you know, the handle slips, he gets just covered in water, and he's freezing. I says, "Man, we got
Oh.
3 more minutes." And he goes, I'm good. I'm good." So I let him go 2 hours early. I paid him for the whole day to go home and get warm, you know, but he stayed till we got the job done. And I know he was miserable because I've been in his shoes where the hose slips, you know, and you get drenched. And,
I could
yeah,
attest to that too, man.
yeah,
And
yeah.
but that speaks to that good relationship, man. And that's one of the keys for, you know, having a good business. It's cool to see that, you know what I mean? Because sometimes people, they just, you get caught up in like the robotization, I guess is the word of
Mm.
just, you know, your business, and then you step back. But that's awesome, man. And I also wanted to ask you, so as far as like your passion projects, right? Like out of the three, which one do you think that's you're most really passionate about?
Oh, definitely the consulting in trees. I mean, I've ever since I was a little kid, you know, I would always climb in trees, and you know, my parents would always say, if we can't find Scott, we look up, you know, because I'm always in a tree or you know somebody's yard. We go to a new, you know, some neighbor's house, or some maybe go down to visit cousins or something, you know, and I've been there a while. You know, there's always a tree. That intrigues me, and that's my passion right now. And I've had some fortunate to have some very interesting and awesome projects, especially in the last 2 years. You know, I worked on the Top Gun facility for the Navy. I've worked in Mineral King on the Giant Sequoias, the largest trees in the world. And I
Those
have
are
a three,
awesome.
yeah, I got a 3-year contract working to protect them from construction. You know, I spent a year and a half in Mexico City working
Wow.
on a golf course. I've been to Canada, I've been to DC, I've been, you know, everywhere in between, working on golf courses, on municipality problems, here in our highway system. It's called Caltrans. You know, I've worked for them on a couple projects, dealing with oak trees and things like that. So yeah, I've had some really cool projects, and I have a couple more coming up. I can't really talk to them about them too much, 'cause sometimes the problem is, you know, you got to sign an NDA where, you know, you're working on a
Mm,
project and you can't say much about it. You know what I mean? It's like,
fair enough. Yeah.
yeah.
No.
And
Yeah,
so,
you
which is
wouldn't want
fine,
to
which is
jeopardize
fine.
that, man.
It's like the Top Gun facility. That's all I can say. I can't say where it is, who I worked on. I can't show any pictures. Can't do nothing. But that's okay. I mean, I get paid well,
Yeah.
you know, so I can't complain.
And it's interesting enough that you even have those, like, because I don't think a lot of people realize that within this field that you can get into something like you can. You know, a lot of people think that it's like landscaping and construction. You get kind of bogged down with just the commercial side of it. But what you do is really interesting, man. I mean, like you know, I know we spoke a little bit about the field that you're in, that I've honestly, you know, never, it's kind of new to me. Even I had to do a little bit of research on it, but
Yeah.
like when it says like a tree forensic analyst, I'm sorry, like that is interesting. And it clearly it's taken you all over the world, you know. And I know here in Jersey, we have the arbor ash, the borer, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so
Yep.
they leave the little larva inside the trunk, and then, you know, they decimate the the tree because they can't get the nutrients or whatever. And so when I was working for the municipality, because I was working there for a little bit in the town in Jersey, they had to start. I think that it cost the state something like $2.7 billion. So it's a really important need that like people don't even realize, that like you need people like yourself to, you know, kind of go and protect certain issues, because it's not just, oh, like you got to protect the environment or whatever. Like it has real life consequences in a lot of these places. And so if you could talk a little about that, you know, not the specifics of the one, but you know, I know you mentioned the bark beetle for pine trees, and I think that's a mold, right?
Yeah. So there's if if we really step back and take a world look at what's going on, it's not good. Um,
Right.
you know, I've got people in Italy saying, you know, we got problems with our olive trees, and you know, people back in your area with the emerald ash and the borer. We also have out in California, you know, the sudden oak death along the coast and things like that. So you start adding all these different areas up where we're having catastrophic losses, and you have to start going back. And that's how I got into the forensic analysis, which I learned from Dr. Shigo. You know, he's the godfather or the father of modern arboriculture, you know, and I learned from
Wow.
him, but I didn't really put it to the test until about 3 or 4 years ago, when I got tired of seeing all these trees with limb splits. And I finally started collecting them when they crack out, and I take photographs and I start looking at them. I start analyzing them, cutting them open, and different trees, oak trees, Chinese pistache, you know, you name it, pear trees, liquid amber, so anything like that that's growing here that's causing problems and splitting out. You know, and we're finding, at least I'm finding that through this forensic analysis, that a lot of this starts when the tree is very young. A lot of these problems. So going
Wow.
back to where they're either in the nursery or when they first get planted. Um, and so what I'm developing now is a series, a publication called Early Tree Care. So it's going to go and it's going to show people through statistics, through photographs, through stuff I've been doing for years, uh, how this is happening. Because most of the times, you know, insects is a secondary problem. So if we have
Hmm.
insect attacks, borer attacks, it's a secondary problem. So what's the primary problem? Well, that's where forensic analysis comes in. We have to go in and we have to find out, okay, what's causing these trees to be so weak that it's easily attacked by beetles, by larvae,
Hmm.
by those types of things. And we're finding that
What?
um, we we have this notion that um, the trees that come from the nursery are perfect, or they're good, or they're great. And not to bag on the nursery industry, but there are times when there are trees that are not perfect. There are trees that have
Hmm.
been topped, and then they let them grow out. And then, I mean, I prove it day in and day out that we start with a problem in a young tree, and it just grows, and the problem grows. And then 8 to 10 years later, sometimes 15 years later, we have limbs split out. And now we have half a tree.
Hmm.
And how is that possible? Well, it starts in the nursery. It starts there when we have to have proper tree care. So we have to have early tree care. And then we have to have tree trimmers that know what they're doing. And in my area,
Hmm.
unfortunately, it's a lot on price. And somebody just goes up and they hack the limbs off, and, you know, they got all these
I,
stubs, you
I
know?
see it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but that's how it got started with the ash trees.
Yeah.
They got hit so hard, and then the beetles started coming in. And if you really think about it, if you have like a 2 to 4% swing in something that compounds, that doesn't take very long to turn into an epidemic. So
Yeah.
you do something, you top trees, and then the beetle gets in, and you know it takes a while, and then it doubles its population. So and then it doubles its population again, and now you start to see, okay, shoot, we went from a small population to a large population, and now it's just running right through it. What are we doing Well, we got to go back to how are we pruning trees, and what's the health of these trees, and you can't just go in and hack a tree back because the leaves manufacture the food that the tree needs. So if there's not green on the leaves or in the stems or in the trunks, then it's a part of the tree that needs food manufactured for it. So the roots don't manufacture anything, at least in most trees.
Mm.
The leaves feed the tree. So the leaves manufacture the food that sends it back down to other parts of the tree. So the roots are 100% dependent on the leaves for their food. So if we cut a tree and hack it all the way back, now what has to happen is the tree has to spend its internal energy, much like our fat on our body is a protectant in case we don't eat for a day or two, or we work ourselves really hard and we don't have the energy from what we eat. So our body burns fuel, burns fat, right? So trees, think of it the same way. If we hack off all the limbs off a tree or take off half the foliage, now we've just told the tree, hey, you have all this mass to feed, and now you don't have any means of income. So let's take it like a job. So you got a job and you go to work and 8 to 5, and you come home and you get a paycheck. Okay, so your boss comes to you and says, "Hey, you're going. We're cutting your hours. We're cutting your hours to 30 hours a week." Okay, that's just like a tree getting its limbs cut off. Okay, and then they come to you again and say, "I'm sorry, but we've got to cut you about half. You're 20 hours a week." How are you going to maintain your lifestyle based on 40 hours a week if you get cut to 20? What are you going to do? You're going to rely on your savings, prioritize, right? What's a priority? And that's what a tree is going to do when you cut off half the limbs. It's going to prioritize. And unfortunately, the root system is usually the first thing that gets cut back. And the roots need to gather the elements. It's got to gather the water. It's got to send it up. But if there's only half the foliage, it's not sending it anywhere because there's nothing there. And so what happens is the trees put out stress hormones, and insects can identify that very easily. I mean, they've been around for millions of years, and they can sense when a tree is stressed. And before we had such large population of trees, um, such a situation where our trees are not maintained correctly, this sways the balance. And so now we have a tremendous amount of borers. We have a tremendous amount. I mean, it's all everywhere in California. Our wildfires are basically because there's so much fuel on the ground, and then there's so much suppression from our fires that have happened over 100 years. And now the insects are starting to hit the trees that are stressed from drought. They're stressed from a buildup of so many things that we start to now, the scales are starting to tip, and we're starting to see old growth forests decline. We're starting to see massive fires that burn hundreds and thousands of acres instead of 20 to 30 acres, or 50 or 100 acres, because our balance has gotten off. And so we got to get back to that situation, not only in our forest, but in our urban forests as well, because the mentality is, oh, it's just a tree. It's just a tree. Oh, it'll grow back. And I got so many photographs I just took the other day. The tree trimming company came in, topped everything, 12 trees, 10 of them lived, 2 of them were dead. And so now what do you do? I mean, what do you do? And so the next time it needs to be pruned, of course, it's been pruned improperly. So we have to do so much work on it to get them back. And so, I know I'm taking you from one end to the other, but it starts in the nursery with a good tree, and then it must have good care. And if we can get the tree to get to 20 years, we're good. I mean, 50% of our urban trees die before maturity.
Yeah.
That's a big load. But the kicker is, okay, so the half-life. So you talk about half-life, like uranium and those kind of things have half-life. The half-life of an urban tree is 13 to 20 years. So if we have half of them dying, and then the half-life is, let's just say 20 years. I mean, that's That's ridiculous. Trees are supposed to outlive us. We're
Yeah, I
not
was just
supposed to
about to
outlive
say.
trees. And so you see
Hmm.
it all over the place with half-lives like that. So I mean, think about it. I mean, if I'm a disease or I'm an insect, this is my heyday, man. This is like the roaring 20s, you know? Hey, that doesn't matter. Hey, I'm gonna have all these, we're gonna have all these babies and they're gonna go and hey, it doesn't matter. Just pick any tree. They're all sick. They're all mangled. They're all having a problem. Just pick one and bore into there. Have a good time. That's where we are right now.
Yeah. And that's the only place, by the way, that those statistics would be acceptable. Is like you said that the tree trimmers came in, 2 of the trees died, and it's just like, oh well, the trees were probably gonna something happened to them. They're not being held responsible to it, and I think
Exactly.
that's a systemic issue, really, because like in every township I've ever worked, and I'm the president of a union that deals with municipal workers, and so I know a lot of these guys, and they don't receive the training through municipality of how to trim. They don't know the difference between crown trimming, structural trimming, sanitation trimming. They just get sent up there and they're like, just cut it back. The resident says some of them want to keep it, the other ones don't. And I see a lot of these trees just be decimated, and like you said, when the roots don't have anything to send up to the leaves, the roots start to like wither away, and then you have like during storms, the trees can't stay up, and so then that creates damage for the town. So anytime trees start to fall, they immediately just like, oh, you know what, get rid of it, because it's going to cause damage on this house. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, this seems to be more of a, a a knowledge issue, like an educational issue, rather
Yes.
than something else, because like I feel like you're on point with everything you said. I just don't think that the education is out there enough for people to know that to what the issue is, and what the weight of the problem and that it's causing, because I feel like the fires, like you mentioned, that seems secondary to me, like a reaction more than the issue, and so have you found a way around that, of how to address this issue?
Starting by education. I mean, that's it. And I'm going to have a publication out here in the next 6 months that's going to detail, um, what to look for, what to look
Okay.
for in a bad tree, what to look for in a good tree, and then how to take care of a tree. So it's called early tree care, but early tree care, if you think about a tree, how long it lives. I mean, I'm working on giant sequoias that are 1,000-year old is young. You know,
Wow.
it's
That's
so
insane.
yeah, it is. And so early tree care for each species, right? Some trees that, they
Hmm.
only last 15, 20 years, they have a short life, depending on where they're growing. But most trees, I mean, they strive for a century, 100 years. That's
Right.
a good starting point, and then go up from there. I mean, we have redwoods that are hundreds of years old. We have giant sequoias that are thousands of years old, and we have some up in the very high Sierras that are again 10,000. With they grow so hardly anything at all, every year, but they're in harsh conditions. They're up there at 8,000 feet. I mean, it's pretty cold up there. Even in the summertime, it's cold. But it starts with education. I mean, I could go all the different areas, but it's not just here, and it's just not in the East Coast, and it's not just the United States, but it's
Yeah, can you
in
tell me about
every.
that? Because you mentioned Italy and stuff like that. Like, is this everywhere?
Yeah, yeah. I have people. I do a lot of social posts on LinkedIn, and I have a lot of people. I have like I don't know 6,000 people that follow me, and I have a few that I bounce things off. I go, how's things over in your area? He goes, it's bad. It's horrible. They just cut them down. They don't care. They just, we have disease running everywhere. I mean, this is, even in some of our Middle Eastern countries, all the way up through Germany. And we have it in Japan. The
Oh
guy
my
that
God.
I schooled a little bit, he had pretty good English, so we were able to communicate. But, he sent me some pictures. What do you think of these? And I says, do you want me to sugarcoat it, or do you want to learn? And he goes, I'm here to learn. I says, okay, what you did was um, was against nature's. That's kind of what we've how I talked to him. It was
Hmm.
went against nature. Okay, if you want a natural tree, you don't go in, you don't do a bunch of heading cuts. You don't do that. And he goes, okay, so what's a good tree? And so, I sent them pictures and stuff like that. And then of course I sent them some information and there's plenty of information out there. And then, like the ISA and ASCA and things like that. But if those are just starting points. I mean, if you got your certified arborist license, I mean, I remember when I got mine, that test was hard. That test was really hard. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and and then there was a period where I was not an arborist, ISA arborist, and so I had to go back and take the test again. And I took the practice test just to see where I was after being out of it for a few years.
Right.
I didn't study. I passed it with 82%. And there's no
Wow.
identification and things like that. So I think we've softened it to get more people on board, which is good. But now that's just the beginning of your education. I mean, if you got a college degree, you get out, what do? You learn from, I don't want to say the real world, but when you get out of college and you get a job, now the education starts again, right? You learn it in
Yeah.
school, which is invaluable what you learn in school. But we have to continue. We have to continue because new stuff comes up that debunks some of our old stuff and myths. We have to try to bust those up, and it's tough, but again, I'm trying to educate people one at a time, just trying to get a few guys together. Hey, this is not right. What you're doing is wrong, and they get upset. I mean, I get guys that, I wait till they turn the chainsaw
I
off, before you talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, because some of these guys, they do this for 30 years. I've seen it. They get a little bit, I know what I'm doing. Like, I've done this for 30 years. It's like, yeah, you might, but, there's
Yeah.
always something better. It's
Well,
just
that's
a
the thing
friendly
is,
advice type of thing.
people ask me, they go, "So how long you been doing this?" I says, "I got out of college in '84, and I've been doing this since then." He goes, "How many years?" I go, "I don't like to put it in years because some people say I've been doing this for 30 years." So I had a guy who come in and he says, "Yeah, he was going to trim one of my older clients, and sometimes my older client forgets that I'm an arborist, right? And so she just calls this guy and hasn't come out to trim trees. And then she calls me and says, "Oh, I got this guy trimming my trees. He's trimming too much." And I go, "I'll be there." I said, "No, don't worry." I mean, so I get there and the guy goes, "Don't worry." He says, "I've been pruning trees for 15 years." I go, "Well, where have you been doing it?" He says, "Oh, I did line clearing for the power companies." I "Oh, okay." So
Yes.
you're going to tell me
Butchery.
you're going to take that specialty of line clearing, which is basically indiscriminately topping and cutting trees, and you're going to now put this into my 85-year-old customer, which I've been taking care of for years, and you're going to put
Oh.
that same tactic onto here. And it says, I just asked guy, "Could you please just stop? Just stop what you're doing. You've done enough, and I'll take it from here. Send her a bill." And so that's what I'm dealing with. That's what we're all dealing with. It's like trees. Oh, let's just hack them back. They're going to grow back. They're going to grow. Look, I got guys going, "Yeah, look, see, in the spring it grows back." I go, "Yeah, but you know, it's not. There's no quality left, and
No,
there's
everything's productivity now,
yeah." And people
Yeah.
don't look at the tree and its natural form. I get guys send me pictures. "Look, I did this, I laced this tree out real nice, and we got it back." I go, "Yeah, but that's not the natural form of the tree. Weeping willow on a golf course, and they want to make sure it doesn't split up and fall out." I says, "Okay, there's ways to do that, but now it looks like you just made it into like a little pyramid, and there's no long and lacy and stuff. So why have a weeping willow if you're not going to let it weep? You know, it's
That's the
just
whole point of it.
it's the whole point
It's
exactly. Why are you
it's
going
in
to
the
plant
name. You just want to
a
like
yeah, plant a California redwood if you can't let it get up?" It's like, ugh,
and, and,
it's
and
frustrating.
and just
It's
to show
frustrating.
you, I know what you mean, because that, how we had our rash where it's so bad that in my town, or not my town, neighboring town, they have a street. It's like a main road where they have trees all along the side, and these are trees that the township planted. And in their infinite wisdom, they decided to plant all ash trees all in a row, every single one. No diversity, nothing. Just ash tree back to back to back. So when this happened, they just started going one after the other. and we
Yep.
were like trying to get ahead of it. And it's just like every day we were getting called out to remove more and more trees. And it was just like we were just jam packed with work. And that's when they had to come out with this pesticide injections, which is those cost like $140. And for towns, that's the issue too, is just that governments and municipalities are just reactionary. So,
Yeah.
they'll never say you come into a township and you're like, hey, I have a way that you guys could solve this issue. I think it's a great idea. You guys would save so much money, but in the long run, right now, you
Right.
got to spend a little bit to get education, whatever it is. But they're like, I don't think we have an issue. And it's like, no, you do. And then, then they'll rather pay the $140 per 14-inch ash tree than, or they plant trees. That's another thing they always do, is they always just keep planting trees, but they do it indiscriminately. And now that I know from what you're telling me that the nursery trees are even coming in contaminated, so it's like, or bad on they don't have
Structure.
what's
Yeah.
the
Sort of
word?
structure.
Yeah. And so exactly. So it's such a systemic issue that I think one of the best things that I've seen you doing is the LinkedIn, because you're actually pointing it out, you're drawing it and giving people knowledge, because I don't really see another way to do it unless it's like, I
Yeah.
don't know, like an overhaul,
Yeah. It's surprising. I came home one day, and just right down the road is a bunch of palm trees, that they planted at this little plaza, and it's it's half circle, so it's the main thing, right? And then I go down there, going to go work, and I look, and somebody's already trimmed them, and they're all in little pineapple. And then if you look at the trunk, you see the trunk isn't cylindrical; it has indentations in it, and like that, because they prune it too much, and the trunk doesn't expand. And so I
Mm-hmm.
get so upset. I just went home. I took some pictures. I went home and I drew and I put my first LinkedIn post. This was 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago to the day. It was the 14th of December. And I got so much flack. I mean, from everywhere. And people go, oh, no, that's
Flack.
from flack. Yeah, just like, you're wrong. Oh, that's from lack of water. I go, but look right here. There's a sprinkler head right there. I go, this is California. We have sprinkler system on everything, right? I said, so it's getting plenty of water, maybe even getting a little too much water. And then people says, nope, that's from transplanting, that you can see. I go, well, but what about the one right above it? There's a little indentation there. That can't be from transplanting. And I go, show me. And I ask people this, show me a tree that was planted that has this, that hasn't been pruned into a pineapple. And I got crickets. And I even got a couple of people say, you know what? I think you're right. And I mean, this is people like in Dubai or in some areas where palm trees, they plant them, they do this. And then I said, go to Vegas and look and see how they prune around the trees around those casinos. And you're going to tell me uh, that in $1 billion industry, and you look at those trees, and most of them are pruned correctly, because
Mm-hmm.
they know. I mean, those trees are expensive, right? They can't afford to have a tree dying on them and then start pulling them out and putting a new one in. So you got to look at the areas where the trees matter, and then mostly it's in a high dollar situation. It doesn't mean we have to spend high dollar to keep trees going, but that's an example of what to do.
Yep.
Pruning, it's not into pineapples. Because if they prune them into pineapples in 118-degree heat in Vegas, they're going to have a problem.
Yeah,
So
that's actually a great idea, is just to take it from the most best example, just to show. Because I mean, like you said, yeah, like those casinos have so much money. Like there's no way they would take a risk like that, man. And
yeah.
I think that it really just comes down to the education. But I mean, even just listening to you tell me about that, like I could just see it already. Everybody coming out in the comments are like, no, like I'm an expert, like I know. But you have the credentials to back it, like you studied under people, you have the years of experience, like you're posting about this all the time. It's just people get set in their ways, man. I see it all the time
They
at
do.
townships.
And when I first
Yeah.
started posting on LinkedIn, I don't really, I had maybe a little bit of my credentials, but I didn't. To me, that's not what I lead with. All right. So,
Hmm.
so I get this one guy, and we're talking to some people, and up near the border, up there, Chicago, all the way into Canada, up in that area, and granted, my knowledge of trees up there is not as perfect as it is here in California, where I live. But I got these guys talking about pruning, and then this one guy, tree trimmer, he says, "Well, what the heck do you know? You probably don't have any credentials anyways." And I go, "Oh, I forgot to mention my credentials." So I gave it to him, right? I gave it to him. I told him I studied with Dr. Alex Shigo for 9 years, and I've got his signature on all my books to prove it, and I go, and then the guy, I sent it to him, and I got crickets, and I just sent him. I said, "Did you receive it?"
Ugh.
And he goes, "Yes." And that's all he said. That's all he said. So yeah, and I mean,
That
I
must have
got
felt good.
a lot of respect for guys that can climb up trees. I did it for years too. Climbed up, did pruning, but I took the time to prune
Mm.
correctly, because it's all about that. It's like, I have clients. My last client, my oldest client, 2 years ago, moved into a retirement home. And that's how I lose my clients. I lose them till they move, they pass away, or they move into assisted living, or move in with people. They don't fire me. Have never been fired, but I take time.
Wow.
But I also charge for it. Tell me, I can't make any money in this business. I says, bull. I says, you can make money in this business. You have to know what you're worth, and you have to prune correctly. If you go up there and hack a tree off, you're going to get bottom dollar. And that's the people who don't care. Hey, just give it a good haircut. Okay. Zzzz. But if you learn how to prune correctly, and the guy says, give it a good haircut, and you say, no, I can't do that, and these are the reasons why, and they're all the reasons that are going to benefit and save you money in the long run. If you did that to your client who wants the haircut, most of the time you're going to get him to say, "Oh, well, I didn't know you knew that much about trees." And that's when the education is. So learning
Mm.
this stuff is good. And I mean, there's only one of me. You know what I mean? I get people asking me all kinds of stuff, and I'll talk with guys on the phone, and girls and stuff, all kinds of places. But I have to kind of limit it, because it's like, I my evening times is like when I do like a LinkedIn post that I make, it takes 20
Mhm.
hours to make that post.
What?
Yeah, because I got to go
Wow.
out, I got to find the pictures, and sometimes they're in my library. I have 65,000 photos in my library, and about 50 of them are trees. The others are landscaping.
Wow.
And so sometimes it's hard. And if I get lazy and I'm taking a bunch of pictures and I don't catalog them, which takes a lot of time, then I got to go through and find it. But I'll come up with a topic, and then I'll go through my library, and I'll pick out stuff, and I'll put it in a folder. But then I'll be missing a few pictures, so I'll go out and get those pictures. Um, and then I got to come back in, and then I got to do it at night. It takes about 9 hours to do that the way I do it. And I may be changing a little bit to speed it up a little bit, but I got to make sure that I continue with the message, and that's what people like the most.
Mm.
And I don't do it for the likes. I don't do it for all that. All that's good, because that means people are looking and watching. The
Right.
comments are great. I mean, I've had one go viral, and I have over 500,000 likes and comments and all that stuff. I mean, it
Wow.
just kept going and going and going. And I mean, it was like almost 2 months of just, and people shared it, as like 76 people shared it. So I knew that hit
That's
that.
so validating.
Yeah, it hit,
It means
it
people
hit a
care.
nerve. It hit a nerve.
Yeah.
It was about a tree dying.
Yeah,
And
I mean, that means people do like, this is something that it's not, because it'd be different if maybe people were just like, oh, whatever. But the thirst for the knowledge seems like it's out there, because if you wouldn't have gotten those level of views if there wasn't. That's just what it is. You know what I mean? And some of
yeah,
it might be a little bit emotional or whatever. But I mean, I just think, luckily now, because we're getting into AI, like, you might be able to cut down that process that you have immensely, just with all the different tools that are out there. Because even taking like the information, I'll just give you a quick example, right? Like, say all the stuff all the information that you give about trees, right? You could now sit down with like Chat GPT. There's different programs that are more advanced or whatever, but even it's just something that you could even do yourself. You go and you take Chat GPT and you speak to it kind of like you're speaking to me. Like there's you click the voice button, and then as you're going back and forth, you just keep loading it with information, and you
Right.
create like what's called like your own Chat GPT. And then you could actually like take that, code it, and just put it onto like a website. So it's like people are talking to you. So there's different, not maybe that one, not
Mhm.
specifically, but
Right.
there's just even searching the pictures, like you could put that all into a database. I'm just, what I'm saying is that like you should, there's so much time that you're spending that you could be focused better on, because I feel like this is a really important message. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I see the first, and especially where I work, like I see the damage, the money that this causes. Like the towns don't even have enough to pay the workers half the time, because they're spending so much on cleanup. Every time we get storms, like
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of negotiations right now where a lot of these guys, like they're trying to get like a 50-cent raise, and it's like that's impossible. And these guys are going up in the bucket every day. Most of those guys have zero training
Yeah.
whatsoever. I mean, they went from not knowing how to cut trees to the next day they're like, all right, well, we're going to put you in the bucket. And I get everyone has to start somewhere, but there's no school, nothing,
Yeah.
and it has a big impact, man. It's kind of sad a little bit to hear that this is happening all over the world, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, and
Especially,
yeah, I just hired. I just hired somebody to do a lot of my busy work, and then I've got
good.
meetings.
Yeah.
I got meetings with a couple of marketing people to take some more load off of my plate, because I got to grow this, and and if I can't grow it fast enough or large enough, then I'm not going to be able to help as many people. But I am speaking. I spoke last year at like 3 different events. I got 3 already this year, and I've got some more that we've
That's awesome.
that
Where
we've
is it like, what kind of stuff is that?
mostly like conventions. I was speaking in Illinois at a conference about different counties. So it's really good because the county people, they I don't know exactly how they do it up there, but they're all tied in together in an organization. But it's also the cities, and the counties, they work together. So it's a it's
Oh,
going to
you
be a
get one,
pretty
you
good.
get almost all of them, just from what I've
Yeah.
seen.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
and it's gonna be, it's in January, it's gonna be cold, and I haven't been to Chicago in a while, at least not when it's cold. So this is gonna be fun. But then I see I got like two. I got to fly to Louisiana, and I have one there on Thursday, and I got to fly to Chicago on Friday, back to back, and then I have a break for a while. But I'm trying to put together some seminars. I did a seminar about 10 years ago on predicting tree failure, branch failure, and I mean, I got so much flack from that. They're like, you can't predict that. I mean, the guy in my own town wouldn't even go, but I
Oh
did
my
get some
God.
people to go, and I had a park from one of the smaller towns who let me use the whole park and all that. I let all his guys come for free, so we traded that out, right? And
Oh, that's
and it
beautiful.
was it was eye opening. I made some guys just go, "What?" I mean, I do that, and I showed them samples. I just went to the park. I says, "Okay, this was done 3 years ago. This was done 4 years ago. See this tree right here? This came out of the nursery, and what do you see?" And then the guy goes, "It's split all the way down the middle." I go, "You're right. So what are we going to do with that tree? Are we going to try to repair it? No, we're going to take it out and we're going to replace it, and we're going to replace it with a tree like this one over here." And it was just so eye opening. And it was a freezing cold day in January, and I had these guys. So I got to get back to that one on one, because I really believe if I can get 10 or 15 municipalities to send their guys to one of my seminars that I'm going to have here, that I could start training them, because it's like
That's the real change.
it
Because,
is 50% of yeah, we lose 50%
yeah.
of our urban trees before maturity, and then the half life is, if 13 to 20 years. How much money are we spending over and over again that we could be putting into education? So, but we have to prime
Man.
the pump somewhere. So they got to find a little bit of money, and I don't charge a lot. I mean, I've seen people having these huge seminars, and I'm going, dang, I could be rich like them, charging people
Yeah.
$1,000 to come to listen to them. And I was like, my stuff's hands on. I mean, you come there, you're going to get you're going to get a splinter or two. That's for sure. And so,
Well, you know
so
what?
that's the,
I mean, you have the credentials for it, and I know I'd like the town I represent for my guys with the union.
Mhm.
I would love to bring you there. I mean, or have them go, like, because like they like if you the way that it works here is very like political, and so like you normally, if you get one town to recognize you as like, you're giving them value. All these guys go to lunch together. The guys from the county, from
Yeah.
these different towns, like they all sit down together, and they're like, "Oh, I got a tree guy. Like he actually like." And if it ends up looking good, for the council members that sit at the seat, that they rotate the mayor position around, so they all
Yep.
just sit on the same position on the board. And if you get one of those guys to, basically tell like, yo, this guy's good, like, he helped us out, because it's I can see it even in the municipality I'm talking about, it's lacking so much. Like if you saw the
Yep.
guys that are cutting, they've never, and it's not their fault, right? Like they just never been taught this.
Yeah.
And I just think that is where the real change happens, because if you were to go into municipal government, they deal with all the parks, they deal with all the town trees that are going out. So they're the ones that are really doing the most cutting,
Yeah.
taking care of everything. And so I think that's an awesome idea, man. I'm super excited for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it starts in the beginning. We got to select the correct trees, because if we don't, then we're going to be just throwing good money after bad. It takes so much money to try and fix a tree that is structurally weak, or that it's had some problems, or it's got girdling roots and things like that. If we just learn to select the right tree, and then we start putting in ordinances. I mean, there's a few cities that have zero topping. We won't plant a tree that's been topped in our city. And I thought, wow, that's what we need right there. And that'll tell the nursery people, stop topping trees unless you don't want to plant them in, go after municipal contracts. And I think that's huge where it is. I mean, I see it
Yeah.
so much is split limbs, split limbs, split limbs. And it's because topping the tree takes away the tree's natural ability and natural shape. Because a young tree's branches are temporary. They're not going to be there when the tree's at adolescence and maturity. But if you top the tree, the branches that grow out there, that's what you're stuck with for the rest of the tree's life, which unfortunately is usually between 13 and 20 years old. And so
Wow.
we start correctly. I mean, I even have programs where I'm looking into, instead of planting a 15-gallon tree, which what does that cost? You got to have 2 stakes, 3 stakes. You got to have ties. You got to have somebody dig it. You got to have irrigation system. We're even proposing that we start with seed or little liners. If a liner costs you $1 and you plant it and it dies, you put another one in. You could do that. How many times could you do that until it costs you more than that one 15-gallon tree, which is probably $250 by the time you get the design, and you get the landscape contractor and all the materials and the maintenance into that. There's no maintenance on a little tiny sapling. There's no maintenance on it. As it grows, yes, you will. And you do have to have different ways of protecting it from somebody just vandalizing it. But it's a great way to save yourself a ton of money. Yeah, it takes a tree a little bit longer to grow, but if you get the seedling vigor, uh, as opposed to a tree in a can, the seedling vigor tree is going to grow much faster. You see trees all, volunteer all over the side of the road. It's,
Wow.
how does that tree grow so quickly? It's because it has seedling vigor. It has to do with, I have this theory that I'm working on. That the less you prune on a tree, the more internal pressure it has. It's kind of like a tank filled with water,
Hmm.
and you're filling it, and it's going to overflow. But if you shoot holes in it, it's going to leak. Right? If you prune trees a
Oh, I see
lot,
what you're saying. The pressure forces it to. Okay,
yeah.
I got
So
you.
you have that vigor, and vigor in a tree is about pressure. It's about how much. we staying whole without holes in us, without a pruning cut. Your pruning cut, the tree bleeds, right? The tree sends out. Now it's losing pressure. It's losing pressure. And so its dynamic, its vitality is lessening. Young trees are 100% dynamic mass. They're 100% alive. As when they get older, they start to have dead parts in them, right? We have interior wood that starts to die out. We get heartwood. We get things like that. But if we start pruning on a tree too early, we also start getting dead wood inside. We get little cavities. We get things like that. So if we, I prune a lot with my fingers. I don't need. I I went 2 years without using a chainsaw, and I
Wow.
pruned hundreds of trees, all hands,
How big
all
were
hands.
how just breaking it and
Nope, just using hand saws. I
oh,
use hand
okay.
saws and pruners. And then when you get little one, tiny ones growing, I teach people all the time. It says, okay, anything that grows over here that starts coming out, it's a little green thing. Just take your thumb and you can just put a little
Oh, so
pressure
it's
on it.
about getting it early.
Early.
Yeah.
Everything's about early. And if you can interpolate, look at a tree and say, okay, this is what I want this tree to look like. It's like the old Karate Kid thing. Picture the tree in your mind and then do it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
That works. If you say, okay, we want all these trees to be, you know, 30 feet tall by 30 feet wide. Okay, how are we going to do that? Well, you starts when they're little and when they get bigger. And then we're going to say, okay, look at that limb right there. If that limb is growing at 6 foot and is growing towards the street, what's it going to look like in 10 years? It's going to be in the way of the trash, the trash truck. It's going to be in the way of any delivery trucks. It's going to be in the way of different things. So it's going to get cut, but it's not going to get cut when it needs to be cut. It's going to get cut when it's a problem. And
Yeah.
now you have a 4-inch cut on a tree, and now we're going to have issues. And now we have a site for insects. We have place for disease to get in. We have all these things, but which could be taken care
Mold,
of with
fungus. Yep.
the thumb. Just a little. Okay, that is going to grow in there. Also, planting. When we plant, we have root flares, right? Even on little trees. If we turn them so that the root flare isn't growing towards the sidewalk or the curb, if we turn it so it's going the long way, like in a parkway strip, we can severely reduce the amount of uplifting we get. Not You can't cure it, but we're going to reduce it because those big limbs are going to grow. Those big roots are going to grow out in the longer areas and not grow straight across and uplift the sidewalk. So lots of things going on. I'm trying to put it all together in a nice publication so people can start to grow trees correctly.
Dude, I think that's out of everyone I spoken to, I think this is one of the most purpose filled, like, important things you got going, because you're not just doing this business for money. This is something that's really truly gonna affect change and habitats, save people money. Like, it's something I think it shows you're really passionate about. You know a lot about the subject. So Scott, I really want to thank you for coming on, and
You bet.
like I said, I'm even gonna I'm gonna make the people that I work with watch this. By the way, so
Sure, sure.
the
Hey,
people I represent, so
yep.
so they know. If you could, where can they reach you to get more information? To find out more about this, about you, about your process, everything.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, but I also have a website, sgtlandscape.com. And it's a work in progress. We're just starting to upload all our blog stuff. I've got stuff on there, ways to get a hold of me. We'll be posting more stuff like where we're speaking and ways people can contact us if you want a demonstration, if they want us to teach their guys and girls about proper ways of pruning. Also, we have a program for landscape architects and planning commissions where we go into there and we start to say, okay, why are we why are we designed a street tree and then a street light and then we planted a street tree right underneath it that's going to get cut down and block all the light. It's like little things like that to where we start to get all these people to work together instead of separately. And so we have these programs, and the hardest place for me to work is in my own town because um, my ideas are a little too radical. I think it's like, oh, we're just going to do it the way we've been doing it. I go, okay, then don't complain about not having money for planting trees because you're wasting it on maintenance, and removals and things like that. So,
They
yeah,
always pay, but down the line, man. Yep.
exactly. Yeah. So,
So, listen, Scott, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for all the knowledge, the information, for coming on to the show. And I appreciate you, man. Everybody,
yeah,
go check him out.
I
Scott
appreciate
Seargeant.
the opportunity. Thank you.
You're welcome, man.